Good morning, everyone. I'm Larry Diamond from Austin, Texas.
And I'm Kaylin Diamond, also from Austin.
We're really appreciative of the opportunity to share what I call our health restoration story on real food, low carb, high healthy fat eating. And me and my wife are going to ask each other, we're both success stories. We're going to ask each other some questions about our journey. And hopefully folks will find that interesting. And we'll also share what our journey has meant for our daughter, for us. It's well beyond weight loss. That's why I call it a health restoration journey. And I'll give you a little background of where I was in 2013, which was when the story got started for us. So in 2013, my uncle had come down with Alzheimer's, and he was my father figure growing up. It was pretty advanced. We had wanted him to, after he retired a few years prior to that, to move in with us, and he had declined that offer, and the dementia had progressed without our knowledge. And so it was devastating to see this brilliant, kind, wonderful man no longer able to participate in the world and no longer his version of himself. At that time, I was around 290 pounds. I had been morbidly obese my entire adult life from about my mid-20s on. I was 47. My wife and I had fortunately and almost unbelievably been lucky enough to adopt our daughter from foster care about a year earlier than that, a year and a half. So she was around 2.5 at that time. I remember one day going to a zoo by where we lived, and we went to a restaurant afterwards. Ironically, it was an Italian restaurant, and we all had spaghetti. And my uncle couldn't even remember having visited the zoo. And at that point, I was devastated. I thought that I might pass even before him because of my ill health. So it took a couple of months, and eventually I just said, it's go time for me, and I need to get healthy. And I have a background in science, so the first thing that I did was, instead of searching for this or that solution or going to other people, I kind of said, I just need to take a full stop, think about my relationship with food, and also throw out everything that I've ever heard about what is a healthy food, and start building up in a thoughtful, critical way what is nutrition and what could possibly heal me. I've just always intuitively been anti-medicine. I've also always intuitively studied evolution and ecology. I had a background in agricultural ecology and ecosystems, so that kind of set the stage. And so what happened was I used what I call Dr. Google, which in a way is just an unbelievable collaborative effort, really, with all of mankind now trying to help one another. And you really get into a conversation in a deep, deep way, more so than you could with even the best doctor in the world, because doctors write books, people who have restored their health prior to you, if you haven't yet, write books and do podcasts and blogs, and there's social media groups where people share information, and all it really takes is asking why. Why is saturated fat bad? Why are whole grains good? Why is the whole world sick? What was the world doing before the chronic diseases became a pandemic? So you just ask these why questions, and
What was your first why question? Tell him that.
it was, why if I'm 300 pounds, am I always morbidly obese? Or why am I always hungry? Why, that makes no sense. Why do I have easily 100 of extra pounds of body fat, probably more so, and I'm hungry all the time? And interestingly, my wife, her conclusion was that I was an emotional eater. And the social aspect of healing is so important. I had to get to a point where I felt that my healing was worth it, that I was worth it, and I can't overestimate how important that was. But I actually didn't think that I was a glutton or lazy. I was simply had no energy. That was a physical thing. It wasn't that I was lazy, it was that walking to my car after work was, for a healthy person, doing a 10K run. It required the same amount of effort. And I was always hungry. So I actually Googled, why am I hungry after a huge fast food meal? And I kind of centered around carbs. And I also started thinking, my grandmother had unfortunately had her leg amputated and died from type 2 complications. What if my uncle's dementia was a version of diabetes? So my main concern became lowering blood sugars. And to do that, I knew I needed to restrict carbs, so I cut out potato chips, bread, and pasta to start. And then, of course, what to replace things with. So that really started my journey. Why do we think saturated fat is bad? I came upon the Ansel Keys story. And then as a ex-high school science teacher, and also I actually taught a course at the college level in statistics, I knew that associational studies are the weakest form of science. They actually aren't science. The best they can do is set up future studies, and that correlation is not causation. So then I realized that there was absolutely no scientific basis for the dietary guidelines that have been followed the last 40 years. And logic and common sense tell you they have to be wrong for the majority of people, because as a global population, we've adopted them, and it's been disastrous. So now I'll give you my wife's story. So she didn't start right away. So why didn't you start right away? What was I like those months that you didn't start, and why did you finally decide to join me?
So I didn't start right away because, well, honestly, he had tried different things, and not necessarily diets, maybe trying to eat a little better food, but still going along with the standard American diet, or what was told to us as what you're supposed to eat. Not ever really reduced calories. We have one room in our house that it's like where exercise equipment goes to die. We probably had every type of exercise equipment that you could buy online, and it was there and unused. And so I really just saw this as just one more thing he was going to try, and it would go away, and we just kind of go back to, how we were living. And, at that point, I had really just accepted I was going to be overweight. I had heard a lot about body acceptance and just accepted. And, I was in my early 40s. I was starting to get aches and pains everywhere. But because I live in America, what everyone else is doing the standard American diet, I really thought it was normal, because I heard similar stories from everyone else. Aches and pains in your 40s, you start to slow down. Oh, my metabolism, it's age, that's slowing this metabolism down. And, over the years, I had tried lots of different diets. I had tried calorie-restricted diets. I had tried eat less, move more. I was vegetarian for a while, but it always came back to, something in my body just told me to go back to what I was doing before. But then, so he starts, and then like 6 months go by, and he is still doing it, and he's happier. He is not complaining as much about anything, or not, about most things.
I was hangry. I was hangry
before he was angry.
Yeah.
And just because of our home situation with his uncle living with us, he was doing most of the cooking. I was working with his uncle and our daughter, and so he was starting to cook these great meals at home, and they were really delicious. And but I had not taken the move to, take these practices into work or take it into my more social aspects. So come December, we go to visit my dad, who lives about 10 hours away, and my dad just could not stop raving about how great Larry looked.
And to put it in context, I was still a little over 230 pounds, and I'm 5'9", so I was still morbidly obese. But he was like, "You look great."
Yeah.
So,
And I don't know if that was a tipping scale, but it was a cumulative effect that he was happier. He had stayed on it. This really seemed sustainable, and I think, I was ready. I was tired of waking up achy. He kept on saying, "Oh, I want you to experience this. I'm not hungry anymore in the afternoon. And he would wake up and just feel so like he'd pop out of bed and just be ready to go for the day. And I'm there like rolling out of bed, drinking my coffee. Don't talk to me for 45 minutes.
Yeah, and in fact, I was thinking about this prior to low carb, high fat. I usually had a snooze button for about 5 to 10 times. I was so just unrefreshed in the morning, and I was using a CPAP machine, and that'll get to some of the health aspects of what happened. But I think I was very hypoglycemic. I was a carb burner, so I was really kind of just in a bad state waking up, and I didn't know, this is normal. But some of the health realities that I lived before adapting this lifestyle was sleep apnea, constant, really severe daily allergies. They weren't even seasonal anymore, they were daily. Asthma, arthritis, IBS, back pain. I was having to take off a day of work almost at least every 2 weeks because of the severe back pain. Anxiety, racing mind, brain fog. I mean, I had the plethora of almost all modern inflictions, and they were, sadly, as I've discovered, self-inflicted. But all of those have resolved, and at least me personally, I'm stronger. I know I'm stronger because I can do pull-ups now where I couldn't do that even as a teenager. But I'm also happier, and real food has really given me what I consider my real self. So as devastating as the pandemics of obesity and type 2 diabetes are, and by the way, I don't feel, having gone through this journey in my scientific research, that obesity is the cause of, obesity is not an illness. It is the body's best attempt to deal with the standard American diet or the standard Western diet, and it's a way to avoid tissue and organ damage and keep the internal environment as beneficial as possible given the inputs people are given. So obesity in itself is not a cause of any disease. It's not a perfect way, but the body has incredible billions of years old body wisdom, because we have all the wisdom of all the predecessors to our species within us, and body wisdom is what heals us. So I feel like the role of a doctor or a health coach or you as a part of your family and friends and global community, what doctors are really, if they're able to become healers, which is the goal, they're like gardeners. So the garden itself is what produces the crops via the soil, via sunlight, via water, via the atmosphere. Just like the human body will produce health, for us it's food and companionship and purpose and movement and all of these inputs, sleep, and then you tend your garden, you become a good gardener, and that's how you achieve health, by accessing the body wisdom. You're really the CEO of your ecosystem, which is your genes, your biome, your mitochondria. So that's some of the things that I've discovered during this journey. But I know my wife wanted to talk about what it's meant for her and also for our daughter, and some of the things that have been hard and that have gotten easier. So what has it meant to our daughter, do you think?
Let's see. Well, she'd probably say, she's 6, she'd probably say to you right now it means that she can't buy school lunch, which is one of her dearest and deepest desires. But what we know is that when we started her on this way of eating, and she already ate what we ate. We never really fixed different meals, so it was very natural for us to just have her continue, start to eat what we were eating. The changes came in kind of what we packed for her lunches in preschool. So medically, she was at her 3-year appointment. She was in the 3rd percentile of height. And then a year later at her 4-year-old appointment, she was in the 25th percentile of height. So she just had this amazing growth spurt. And we also noticed as we took out gluten and we took out more of those processed sugars, and I started finding processed sugars in what I thought was really healthy food, organic pouch, those little fruit pouches that have vegetables, very discreetly mixed in. But then you look at the back and you actually look at the carbs, and it's really surprising. And so when we started taking those out and replacing it with just real food, her behavior changed. And she's a great kid. She was always a great kid. She has a lot of energy. So when a lot of energy on real natural food. So then when you take those processed foods and you introduce them back in, as she does sometimes it just happens that she gets offered something or life happens and we see the effects.
Almost immediately.
Oh yeah, within a half hour. So I just saw these amazing changes in her, and I saw her being her best self. I think the hardest part for me with her is truly her interactions with others about food. Food is one of the areas that kids can control. They control so little. So what can I control? I can control if I eat or not, or how much I eat. And so when she gets concerned or confused about why other families and kids get to eat these items and she doesn't, and so we have to walk a fine line. We started saying, well, we love you, we want you to be healthy, and so this is why we feed you this way. And then she came up with, well, do other parents love their kids because they're letting them eat these other things? So we had to say, well,
and we say, yeah,
it's our choice for our family.
They make the decisions right for them, and we make our decisions, and everyone's different. And Daddy can't eat certain things that his coworkers at work can eat, and we're just finding. But would you say we treat her as a mini me or mini us? Is she necessarily as low carb as we found that we need to be for our health?
No, we definitely let her eat a lot more carbs than us because she's growing, and she's still growing, and also we try to let her have as much choice as possible. So when we go grocery shopping, she gets to choose, the fruit. We tell her how many pieces of fruit for the week, and then she can choose what combinations of fruit she can have. When we look at the 85% chocolate, she gets to choose the flavor 85% chocolate that we eat.
We even let her have 70% chocolate. I know we're rebels, and her choice is actually chocolate with chili. She likes, and it's just been wonderful to see her blossom. She's incredibly strong. I do a lot of my resistance training with her, and we both discovered this recently, she can actually grip us in a way that I can't even move. And I'm really trying.
She'd be a really good sumo wrestler.
Yeah, she's, I think she has a future as a sumo wrestler. So, It's early morning Texas time, and we're going to wrap up. This has been such a pleasure. I'll let you know where I started in my weight and Kaylin's and where I am. So my all-time high, actually, in my late 20s and early 30s, I've rarely said this on social media, was over 360 pounds. And I remember having over a 56-inch waist. When I started, and ironically, I lost a lot of weight. I was like a skim milk addict. I fell for everything. And I replaced that, I don't know why, with whole milk. And that actually got me like a fairly rapid drop of over 60 pounds. And I sadly didn't make the connection. But when I started in 2013, I was 290 pounds. I'm now usually in the high 160s, occasionally mid 160s, and then I have the genetics to advantageously put on weight, so I sometimes go into the low 170s and then just back to the 160s. And interestingly enough, I didn't know all the mechanics of what was going on, but I spontaneously dropped weight via low carb, high fat, ended up losing 100 pounds in the first year by accessing my stored body fat. So when I got down to the 160s, and I did have a little stall at 190s, and I upped my high intensity, and I switched to a standing desk, and that got me the last 20 or 30 pounds fairly effortlessly. But then when I got to the 160s, I started getting hungrier, and I went with it because one of my goals is never to count calories, and if I'm hungry, respect that hunger. But I didn't gain weight, and then I figured out the reason. Prior to being in the 160s from the 290s, part of my daily calories was from my stored body fat. Once I got to the 160s, my body said, hey, this is pretty good. We like your amount of stored body fat, so have more calories externally or exogenously. And I did that. Again, I listened to my body, and it worked out great. And, one thing, I'll leave with just one thing. So many people are not healthy that me and Kaylin say just try it for a month or hopefully 3 months. Maybe just try bacon and eggs and coffee with cream as your breakfast. Don't make these huge changes. And what I see my coworkers going through is that a lot of them drop out in the first week or two because that's the hardest. It'll always be the hardest. They never get over that hump to fat adaptation where you're now in control of your hunger. And it's so sad for me to see them either never try because they don't know how much easier this can make life. It's temporarily harder. But I was struggling with no energy, brain fog, being so much in pain every day that I call living low carb, high fat, being adapted. I love that word, being fat adapted, being a fat burner. Makes life so much more pleasurable and so easy. So I just urge people to give it a month. Give it a month to where you're no longer hungry, then you're in control of your food choices for the rest of your life. Any new thing is harder at first, but get over that transition. Now I have to go to work soon, so I'll let my wife finish up. And thank you.
What he said. No. So yes. In the beginning, it is harder. It's it's finding that extra time to figure out how to make those meals. But you'll find that if you spend that extra time on the weekend doing batch cooking, whenever you cook double the amount and then save part of it. It'll become a just habit and.
Oh, and taste change.
Oh,
like your cravings go away. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Your cravings definitely go away, and they might sneak back. And so I've lost 70 pounds, and and sometimes if they sneak back, or if I happen to have even too much natural sugar, like that, those cravings sneak back in. But it naturally because I now know that when I eat more sugar or more carbs, my body tells me, hey, that doesn't work for me. My anxiety goes up. My joint pain will come back. And so intuitively, my body says, I don't like the way you're eating, back off. And so, and then I back off. I lower my carbs back down. I don't eat as much, natural sugars, and then I feel much better. But yeah. Oh, and there's so much out there. He talked about Dr. Google. Any of your favorite foods, just Google that food plus the word paleo or that
Or low carb.
or low carb, and then you're gonna find all these great adaptations for it, and have fun.
Yeah,
try lots of different
this
things.
is a life affirmation. That's what it was. That our lives were worth it. Let's try living healthy. Let's try living vibrantly. And it's been the most wondrous thing to. I almost call it a diamond family renaissance. And my goal now is to help as many people as I can experience that. And again, this is collaborative. That's the key thing. There is a collaboration between open-minded scientists, what I call peer-to-peer healing. Tap into that, tap into yourself. Let's make my daughter's generation the healthiest generation. It can go two ways. Her generation can be the sickest generation ever, with the most chronic diseases, with the most autism, with the most fatty liver, with the most obesity, or they can become the healthiest generation ever. I know Glenn and Yale have 3 daughters, and their examples. Let's show the world with ourselves that we can restore our health at any age and live better than we ever expected, and that our children can become even healthier than we've become. And that we're really at a kind of a critical point. And I'm an environmental scientist. I'm now passionate about ecological restoration with smart ranching. Cows will save the planet. So this has been, I want to somehow do this full time, and it's so empowering what real food, low carb, high fat is. You're creating your health. You're no longer a consumer of pharmaceuticals. You're using your own body wisdom to create your health future. And it's just a beautiful thing. I really appreciate being here. I appreciate all of you that are interested in this. Let's all get healthy together. And I got to go to work.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.